Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
When you get too focused on routine, when you don't have enough flexibility, anything that's random, anything that's unexpected, any sort of volatility that happens in the environment, and it's like, poof, it's gone.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
We are Justin and Kylie Coulson, the podcast hosts of the Happy Families podcast, and the bets are on. Tonight, we find out who the winner of Parental Guidance Season 1 is. We've got tiger parents up against free-range parents, and they're both going camping. Neither of them have ever camped before.
You should have heard the noise in our lounge room last night as the kids...
Because like, what?
What is going on?
I love this show. I love the conversations that it's creating. So we can't wait for tomorrow where we're going to interview the winners of Parental Guidance. We'll find out who they are tonight and look forward to a conversation with them first thing tomorrow when you wake up and the podcast drops. In the meantime, we need to talk about what happened last night in the crowded house. Our final two activities, our final two sets of parents took over parenting 12 kids and giving them memories that will be memorable.
Definitely memorable.
So we had, what do we have? We had Andrew and Miriam.
With the Aussie barbecue.
Yep. And Brett and Tony did the...
Dream party.
Which they turned into Zara's birthday party. Let's talk about that after the break. We'll stick with Andrew and Miriam's Aussie barbecue right now. Now, I think for those of you who haven't seen the show, what's essentially happened is we've got a couple of parents known as the strict parents, and they've got to put on an incredible Australian barbecue for 12 kids and get the kids completely involved, absorbed and focused on doing things for the duration. And there was some let's talk less about how Andrew and Miriam did and just the central talking points, the things that we can take from it as parents so that we can be better as parents when we're working with our kids to put together a great Aussie barbecue.
So guys, listen. Our parenting style is strict, and that means that when we play by the rules, everyone has more fun.
That's not fun.
Our basic plan was prepare hard, play hard.
We need onions.
Onions.
We need the onions now. I command you to make these onions quicker.
Well, there's three things that stood out to me.
Yep.
There was the induction process.
Which was laboursome and challenging, and 12 kids did not want to sit there for too long and be told all the strict rules that they were going to have to adhere to. That was tough.
And then there was the involvement as everybody worked together as a team to get the job done. Mm-hmm. And then there was connection.
Having lunch.
When they were all able to sit down at the dinner table and have lunch together.
Sure. And there was another series of moments around induction again. Once lunch was finished, it was time to play when the water pistols came out, which really ties in very much with our initial conversation about induction. So let's start there and let's talk about giving kids instruction. I think that it's fair to say, if you saw the show, that it didn't go particularly well.
It was a long conversation.
Way too long.
Lots of different age groups.
Right. And this is the critical thing. As parents, when it comes to giving our kids instruction, once we start talking, their brain does one thing and one thing only.
It stops working.
Completely. Like they switch off, and you could see it in the kids, their eyes glazed over. The older kids did better than the younger kids. And there's a developmental reality here. Children struggle to listen, and the younger they are, the more they struggle.
Well, and families deal with this all the time, right? We've got a 2-year-old and a 10-year-old.
Right.
But we've got to deal with the whole family.
Yes.
And so there is challenge for every single parent out there of how to make this age appropriate and time sensitive. I'm going to say sensitive because it really is.
Yeah. So here are my tips. You might have some as well for giving kids instruction. Number one, keep it really short. Like really short. Like not nearly as long as it went last night. Like really short. And did you notice how long I took to keep it really short? I took too long. Keep it really short. For a kid, just in and out. Here's what I need. But what usually will happen is that they will miss it because you've kept it really short. So I think that the next thing to make sure that you're doing while you're keeping it really short is make sure you've got eye contact. Because when they're looking in your eyes, you know that they're much more likely to be paying attention. But you know the thing that really clinches it, the thing that actually makes it work?
What?
You get them to repeat back to you what they've got to do.
I would have said to involve them in the process.
Oh, do you mean collaborate with them on what needs to be done? Yeah. Well, that's even better. That's great because then there's
their
buy-in.
brain thinking.
Yeah.
And then they're more inclined to do it because they've come up with the suggestions.
Which ties in with what we do with our morning routine, right? We don't tell the kids, do this, do that. We say to them, hey, what's next? What do you need to do? rather than you need to go and do this. I've told you 1,000 times. The reason we tell them 1,000 times is because they didn't listen for the first 999 because they don't want to listen. We're boring. So if we say, hey, what's next? What do you need to do? What do you think would be good now? They're actually much more likely to do it. So giving kids instruction, keep it short and simple. Get eye contact to the extent that you can. Get them to buy into it and tell you what to do, or at least to repeat back to you what you've asked.
Then there was this opportunity for everybody to get involved.
Do the work.
In doing the work.
Yeah.
And there again was a lot of sour faces. Kids were not happy that they were having to do something.
Yeah, that's right. So I think there's an important lesson here, and that is sometimes we've got to say to the kids, sorry, stuff has to be done. And sometimes doing stuff just isn't that fun. But if we all get in and get it done, we get to enjoy the rewards. And we saw that. And I love this. In the entire 4 days that all these families were in the crowded house, we only really saw one sit-down meal together, and it was the lunchtime that Andrew and Miriam put on for the Great Aussie Barbecue, where they said, no, we're going to wait and we're going to eat together. We're going to eat at the table together. It just felt good, didn't it?
Okay, I think we're ready for sit-down food.
After all that good effort,
But we have to wait to eat together.
don't forget to pray.
Okay, so we've got some beautiful food here. I'm going to give thanks for this food. Let's close our eyes and give thanks for this food. Father God, thank you for this food, this beautiful day, and for the friends we have. Amen.
Okay,
Let's dig in.
What a short prayer.
Enjoy
That's the
your-
shortest I ever heard. Hello, God. Amen.
It was really nice to see the parents having conversations with the kids and just having that one-on-one connection.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I agree. So that was a really interesting one to watch. Probably also worth highlighting again at the end of the session, at the end of the barbecue, they had the big water gun fight. And once again, there was a big sit down. Let me explain the rules. They were trying to play capture the flag with kids aged between 5 and 10, 5 and 12. And the little kids, it was just too much for them. Like it's a complicated game if you've never played it before. And I think
Probably keep the guns hidden until
Yeah.
the kids know what's happening.
Totally. And maybe play games that are more in line with the developmental capacity of the kids. Like if you've got kids that are 10 and up, 12 and up, you'll be able to play capture the flag, no worries. But younger kids, it's a little bit complex if they've never done it before. And there's so much going on. So they were the really big things, I think, to come out of that. As from a parenting perspective, keep your instructions short and sweet. Have moments of connection and let the kids know, yes, sometimes stuff's boring, but we've got to do it so that we can enjoy the good times.
When we work together as a team, things happen much quicker and we're able to enjoy our time together a lot faster.
After the break, we find out where Brett and Tony went right and where they went wrong with their dream party that turned into a 3-year-old's party for Zara.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
Are screens creating tension at home? Tweens, Teens and Screens is a webinar to guide families to healthy, safe super screen solutions. Buy it today at happyfamilies.com.au/shop.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we are reviewing last night's episode on parental guidance in the crowded house. And we've had our last 2 super challenges.
We've seen 2 sets of parents struggle with 12 kids as they've tried to put on a barbecue and now a dream party. Brett and Tony, they had the right idea. They had the routine. But you know what I saw really, really clearly? And that is that when you get too focused on routine, when you don't have enough flexibility, anything that's random, anything that's unexpected, any sort of volatility that happens in the environment and it's like, poof, it's gone. And how do we get back to the routine? There was a lack of flexibility, a lack of capacity to adapt, and I think that as parents, it's something that we've got to be able to respond to.
I wonder if sometimes parents get stuck in this rut of routine where they actually get stuck in autopilot mode without having to think about anything because they're just following what's on the paper.
Yeah, so years ago I read it in a book and I've adopted it as a phrase that I use all the time now. We get stuck on auto-parent rather than autopilot. And the more we auto-parent, the less effectively we can respond to unexpected challenges in the environment. If you've got children, there are going to be regular unexpected challenges, which we saw with the dream party.
We will nail this if we utilise our 3 Ps of parenting: planning, process and participation.
So to be successful, we want to have lots of fun. What are our ideas?
I've got a good idea. Pinata.
We should decorate the outside of the house.
Party bag. I think we should carve into a watermelon.
There's these balloon arches.
One at a time.
The birthday party looked amazing, yeah, with all the beautiful decoration and lots of nice food.
Whoa! Oh, wow.
What else stood out to you?
Well, I love the delight. I mean, there was a lot of fun at this dream party, and I think that's because parties are fun. Full stop. End of story. But I think it's also worth highlighting just one other thing from a parenting perspective that's really important, and that is that when you start to end up out of control, you can't let the kids know. Like they see it, they feed off it, they know, they can tell, and emotions are contagious. And what ended up happening at a couple of points is that as Brett and Tony increasingly felt out of their depth, the kids fed off it and got crazier and crazier. Like the kids catch our chaos and they catch our cranky and they catch our crazy, but they also catch our calm. I talk about all the time how emotions are contagious, and my feeling was that a few times emotions just weren't quite in check. There was a sense of I might say that Brett and Tony seemed terrified once or twice. I don't know if I'm overstating it or not. Sorry, Brett and Tony, if you're listening, I'm not trying to give you too hard a time here. But it was like, no, we're out of control. This isn't how it was supposed to be.
Well, they acknowledged that. They
did.
100% acknowledged that. But I guess the question I have, now that you've, kind of shared what you shared, is just, I think it's every parent's nightmare to find yourself out of your depth. And it happens regularly for so many of us where we're just placed in these situations, go, holy heck, how did I get here? How do I get out of here? So do you have any tips for mums and dads when they're in that situation? How do you kind of not let the kids catch the emotions that you're feeling in that moment? What can you do to kind of pull it all back, rein it in and get back on track?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm talking to myself as much as anyone here because I've said this many times. I don't claim to any parenting perfection. So what I'm about to share, I struggle with myself. We all do. Like it's really hard to get this right. But I reckon there's a couple of things that we can do. First of all, you got to make sure that you're well rested. You can't parent well if you're exhausted and you're hungry and you're tired and you're sick and you're stressed. Like it doesn't work. The second thing though is you've got to recognize the triggers. So I've recognised for me.
If I was Brett and Tony, I would have canned the party from the beginning. After that sleepover.
That's right. That's right.
After that sleepover, there wasn't going to be no win.
No. I think that's a fair call. I do think though that we need to know what our triggers are, and we've got to practice how we're going to respond. Like the answer is be intentional.
Oh, kids give you lots of opportunities to practice.
Well, I know that one of my triggers is disrespect. When the kids are just super disrespectful, I know that triggers me. It sets me off, and I'm not able to be my best. And so what I need to do when that happens is I've got to think to myself, I've just experienced disrespect. What was the response that I decided on ahead of time? And I've got to drag that response out of myself when it's exactly the opposite of what I want to do. Because what I want to do is rant and rave and say, don't you dare disrespect me in the most disrespectful manner possible. And I think that's the hardest thing about being a parent is, hang on, what's the right way for me to respond to this thing that triggers me so much and sets me off? How do I get there? And then in the moment, remind yourself that that's what you committed to do. Really hard to do it, but that's the solution.
Can I get a therapist on you at the moment?
Yeah. Are you going to be therapy minded, are you?
Well, I'm just wondering whether it would actually be more helpful in a quiet space to actually start to think about why that particular behaviour is so triggering for you. And if you're able to work out why it is and then work out the belief behind that, what does that say about you as a person?
So let me be far too vulnerable on the podcast. When a child is disrespectful to me, one of our kids is disrespectful to me, the reason that I struggle to maintain my composure, the reason that I start to get angry, I know that anger is a secondary emotion, and anger comes from feeling something else first. And so if I'm really honest with you about this, I get angry because I'm either sad or scared. And when it comes to disrespect, I think that the better word is terrified. I'm terrified that my children in disrespecting me are then not going to listen to me, which means that my opportunity to influence them and help them to make safe and healthy decisions is going to be limited or even zero because of that disrespect. And of course, the great irony is that because I'm so scared that they won't listen to me and I'm so scared that they'll make unsafe, unhealthy choices, because I'm so scared, I get angry that they're not listening and that they're being disrespectful. So I blow up at them.
You act in a way that actually creates what you were
precisely. They're like, well, as if I'm going to listen to him. He doesn't respect me. Why would I respect him? And so it's a really important question that you've asked, and it's a really hard thing to acknowledge and respond to. But that's the great fear that I have as a parent. What if I can't influence my kids and keep them safe?
And then I guess the next step is that conversation we have with our kids that thoughts are just thoughts.
Right.
And they don't have to be truth because they're just a thought. And so what is the thought that you want to have to create the connection and the love that you want between your child and you?
Well, I guess it's not necessarily true that if my children are being disrespectful to me, that I won't be able to be influential in their lives. Unless I fight fire with fire, then it's almost certain that that'll be the case. But that's going to be most parents, and it's certainly mine, instant response. That's why it's so important to have that intentional fallback. And the intentional fallback for me has to be, you're having a really rough time right now. You don't like what's going on. And if they're angry, then they're upset about something. They're fearful of something. Maybe they're fearful of their autonomy being taken away or something like that. And so my job then is to step in and try to understand, try to work through their situation rather than making it all about me.
It's such a big, hard space to walk.
And all of that came out of Brett and Tony's dream party. How did that happen?
I think that this is where the power in the show comes from, though, this opportunity for us to dig deeper and have conversations that actually challenge us.
Yeah, because the
challenge the way we think.
The show's not really about the dream party. It's not really about the crowded house. It's understanding what the assumptions are that we have that underlie our parenting decisions. And what we've got with Andrew and Miriam, our strict parents, giving those kids instructions, is a really strong feeling that we've got to control our kids. Now, I'm not saying this about Andrew and Miriam. I haven't sat down with them and asked them these questions. But ultimately, the more controlling we are, I think we tend to control out of a place of fear. That is, we're scared that the kids are going to make poor choices, and so we've got to control them. We've got to make sure that we keep them on track. And when it comes to the dream party with Brett and Tony, emotions get really big and everyone ends up all over the place, and it can be kind of chaotic. And how do we respond to that, and what can we do to keep our emotions in check so that we can continue to guide our children effectively and to influence them well? I think they're the kinds of questions that the show's really bringing up at a deeper level.
Well, I hope you've loved the show as much as we have and have been able to have these kinds of conversations with your significant other, with your children, with your parents. Like this stuff really matters, and it's making a difference in our home as we've watched it with our children.
Tonight, the finale of Parental Guidance. Please join us on Channel 9 at 7:30 to find out which of our two families is going to be crowned as having done the best in the show. I mean, on the show, we're going to say it's the best parenting style in Australia and all that kind of thing, but really, we're just talking about learning from parents and having a great time. And I can't wait to see how they go in the bush because they've never camped, either of them. This is going to be so much fun. Looking forward to seeing you on the TV tonight. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. And if you'd like more info about making your family happier, please join us at happyfamilies.com.au. Oh, and make sure that you subscribe to the Happy Families newsletter by doing the Parenting Styles quiz. Find out what parenting style you are at happyfamilies.com.au. This weekend, Little People, Big Feelings. It's the workshop for anyone that has kids under the age of, let's say, 6 or 7 who has big feelings, and parents who want to keep it under control. All the info at happyfamilies.com.au.